I'm a little late today. I had a doctor's appointment this morning. This is day 13. The reading is Genesis chapter 38 through 40. Genesis chapter 38 is some weird misogynistic story of inbreeding and male hypocrisy. Tamar, who was given to the son of Judah, who was one of the, I believe it was 12 sons of Jacob, her husband / rapist was named, first husband / rapist was named E-R. She had a son with them. I don't know why I'm telling you that, because it makes no difference. She probably had daughters too, but being that women are unimportant here, I guess it doesn't matter. Anyways, it says here that displeased the Lord, or what was it? He greatly offended the Lord, according to the New American Bible. I don't remember what the King James said. But it doesn't say what he did to greatly offend the Lord. What, he picked up a stick on Sabbath? I don't know. It wasn't because he raped a woman. God doesn't care about that. God condones that. God advocates that. But eat a shellfish? You're doomed to hell. Anyway, so offended God. And in God's kindly, forgiving, merciful way, he killed her. So then, because inbreeding was the thing of the day, Tamar was supposed to marry / allow him to rape by her brother-in-law, who was Onan. Onan, this is some jacked up, unscientific, backwoods, hick, nonsense science. So they believed that when a woman had sex with a man, any child with another person after that would technically or socially be the offspring of the first man she had sex with. Totally unscientific. So Onan, when he raped Tamar, didn't ejaculate in her because he thought, as they all thought, that the offspring she had, the children she had, would socially be accepted only as Er's children. Even though Er had nothing to do with this, he was dead, right? So anyways, that displeased God, and because God is so kind and merciful and loving, he killed Onan. So Judah had another son, Sheila. But Sheila was very young. And because inbreeding was the name of the game back then, at least with the women, not with the men, with the women had to inbreed. in other words, be raped by someone in the family on the husband's side. He was too young, so Judah, the father of all of them, all the rapists, head rapist in charge, says, just stay a widow, stay single until Sheila gets old enough, and then you'll have Sheila as your husband. I mean, they make it, obviously written by a man, they make it like like Tamar had it, wanted this. Tamar didn't want this. Tamar had no choice. They're making it sound like Tamar was like, oh, yeah, I want to be raped by your other son. Oh, he's dead? Now I want to be raped by your other son. And like she had no feelings for any of the previous husbands. You know. I don't know. Anyways, so what happens, Judah's wife, the father of the rapists, die. They never give her a name. She's a woman. She's not worth mentioning. She's not worth giving a name to. So Sheila apparently gets old enough to rape Tamar, but Judah has not yet allowed him to rape his daughter-in-law. So one day, I don't remember where, he's like out in the field or something with his sheep. Who knows what they're doing, what Judah was doing. But anyways, Tamar takes off her widow's clothes because, a woman's supposed to mourn. Man doesn't have to mourn. His wife's lost, but a woman has to mourn. Her husband's lost. So it's like, don't have sex, don't rape me. So you wear all black or whatever you do when mourning back then for women. And so she takes off her mourning, mourning, most likely a black garb, fully veiled, probably a burqa type thing. She takes off that, she puts on a veil, goes around where she knows Judah's going to be hanging out. Judah passes by and offers her compensation if she was to have sex with him. Dude's a total whore. All these men are whore. All these men in the Bible are total whores. Anyways, so she says, what you gonna give me? And he says, I'll give you a baby goat. Or whatever they called a kid back then. Well, who knows what they called a kid back then. Maybe it was a baby sheep. Maybe it was a baby chicken. I don't know. But anyways, she says, well, make a promise to me. I need a promise. And he says, okay, you take this staff, which I'm assuming is like some sort of cane. And what was it, bracelets? Let's see. I think it was his cane, or what they call, I guess they called it his staff in here. And I don't remember, it was a bracelet, or it was something like bracelet, some necklace or something. So he gave that to her as something in, like as a promise. That he'd bring her the baby goat. Dry air, my goodness, my throat. So anyways, they had sex. And surprise, surprise, contradictory to science as we know it today, she gets pregnant on that one time. That one time she has sex with him. Anyways, so later, Judah says to his slave, male slave, here's a I always wonder how many times these men raped their male slaves. I mean, it talks a lot about them raping their female slaves, but I kind of wonder how much they were raping their male slaves. But anyways, let's not talk about that. We're supposed to pretend that doesn't exist because we're reading the Bible. So he tells the male slave, take this baby goat, kid, and find this prostitute and give her the prostitute in exchange for the bracelets, whatever. So he goes over, and apparently she had been in front of the temple when Judah had, walked by or whatever, propositioned her. And I gotta get some water. And my little rat. So the look at his little tail. So the male slave asked around. He couldn't find the prostitute, so he asked around. He's like, where's the temple prostitute? Everybody says there's never been any temple prostitute here. And so he goes back, the slave goes back to his owner and says, Judah, says, I can't find her. They said there was never any temple prostitute over there. Well, Judah finds out that Tamar, this is kind of where I'm not too sure how this, it's kind of ambiguous here. Like, Judah found out Tamar was a prostitute, and that's how she got pregnant, because she's pregnant now with twins. They say she was pregnant with twins. How did they know it was twins? They didn't have any ultrasound. I don't know what's going on here. Anyways, so they, he says, burn her. Okay, this 2-bit whore is ordering his own daughter-in-law to be burned to death because she had sex, outside of marriage, outside of the inbreeding standards he had set up. I don't know, because she had sex for money? Was it the money? Wasn't it better to get paid for sex than to pay for sex? Anyway, so Tamar says, dude, he's the one I had sex with. And she shows the bracelets and the staff, and they recognize it as his. And and this is pretty ambiguous here. He said something to the effect that she's better than me. She is more in the right than I am, since I did not give her to my son Sheila, so he could rape. But he had no further relation. He didn't have sex with her anymore. And so, what was he ashamed of? That he was a whore? That he was paying for sex and she was making sex and she learned how to make money off of it and he learned how to lose money off of it? Was it that he was okay with it now that the inbreeding was continuing, that these kids were inbred kids? Was he okay with it? And he wouldn't have been okay if she had sex with somebody outside of the relationship? I mean, he wanted to keep was it because he wanted to keep the inbreeding going? Was it because he was found out that he was a 2-bit slut? Is that... I don't get the story. But then she has twins, and this might sound a little familiar, like history repeating itself, but it says that There was a struggle in the womb, and one of the children started to come out. The hand was out. And the other child pulled, the twin pulled the other child back and came out first. Kind of like, does this remind you of, was it Jacob and Esau? So anyways, that just, it's kind of like a different take on, you know, the twins fighting type stuff that we read earlier. Just utter nonsense. Anyways, chapter 39 goes back to Joseph. He was the one with the 12 brothers. Who knows how many brothers he had, because Benjamin, who knows if Benjamin existed, because Benjamin first existed, then he didn't exist. I don't know. Anyways, so Joseph was the one with the alleged coat of many colors, but in the New American Bible it just said a long tunic. So Joseph, now there's a discrepancy here in this chapter 39. Okay, so I wrote this down. The New American Bible doesn't talk about the... Oh, no, that was the coat of many colors. Let me get up to date here in my notes. Discrepancy of Joseph's owner who sold him to Potiphar. Chapter 38 says Joe was stolen from the Ishmaelites by, I can't remember, Midianites or something. But in chapter 39:1 makes it clear that he wasn't, because the Ishmaelites sold him directly to Potiphar. So we got another contradictory story here. And the Bible, go figure. I think this is the third or maybe fourth contradictory story that I found in the Bible, and I'm only on chapter 39 of Genesis. Anyway, so Joe was, I have no respect for him, so I'm going to call him Joe. Joe was Potiphar's, according to this, Potiphar's courtier. Well, he was Potiphar's main dude. He was in the household, not in the field, in the household. And he had, I think here it says he had control of everything except the food. I think it said he didn't have control of the food, but everything else was basically his as it was Potiphar's. Now, this doesn't make any sense, because how do you get a slave and right off the bat you're letting him have access to everything when you have slaves you've had for a long time and trust more, but they don't have access to anything, to nearly as much, and sometimes nothing. But this new dude, Joe, gets all this control. But anyways, another part of the story doesn't make sense. Joe's wife, Joe was attractive, and Potiphar's wife started lusting after him, and she kept trying to get him to lick her pussy. And Joe kept saying no, and she's like, you know, muff dive, muff dive, muff dive. And he kept saying no. Well, one day she tries to rape him. And he ran and fled and left his cloak with her. And she told everybody, oh, he tried to rape me. And then she told her husband, oh, he tried to rape me. Well, then Potiphar gets mad at Joe and throws Joe in prison. Chapter 40. In prison, again, Joe's such a great newcomer that they put him in charge of all the prisoners. Doesn't make any sense. But there's been prisoners there for a longer period of time. I'm sure they were more trustworthy than this dude that's been there not hardly at all. And they don't get these, you know, these rights that Joe does. Anyways, there's a butler and a cook who are also in there because they ticked off Pharaoh. And they have a dream, and one says, my dream is this and this and this, and Joe interprets it as you're going to get out in 3 days. Another one has a dream this and this, and Joe says that means you're going to get killed in 3 days. Sure enough, all that came to pass. Well, the one thing that Joe said to the person who he said the dream means you're going to live, he says, when you get out of here, remember me, tell it to Pharaoh so I can get the Hades out of here. But it says at the very end that who was it that got out? Here, restores chief cupbearer. Whatever a cupbearer is. The cupbearer is the one that got out alive and was restored to his previous position. That alone doesn't make any sense. And then the baker, off with his head. But the cupbearer forgot about Joe. Poor Joe. The troublemaker, just like his dad. Anyways, here is my Monsters High lunchbox. It's insulated. Let me see. I'm going to do a yellow shirt. And you're going to have to put up with it and get sick. It is insulated. I'm jiggling you around. See? Insulated. It's got a double zipper. See that? Zipper on either side. So you can zip it either way. Plain old back. Handle. Let me see the measurements. 8 inches by 7 inches by about 3 inches. And that's for sale. This one still got the little taggy in there. That's the tag. And here's my rat. Squeaky. Squeakers. That's Greenbrier. I think it's Greenbrier International. Yeah, Greenbrier International. Made in China. Okay. My cat. My outdoor cat. Is that a nice little rat? Anyways, my indoor cat is on Catster. And Catster is voting for Cat of the Year. And if my cat makes Cat of the Year in the votes, gets the most votes, he makes Cat of the Year. And he'll get a free box of treats and more stuff. So vote for my cat, Stray Cat, the name is Stray Cat, on Catster. I'm going to put a link in the description if I remember. Thank you for joining me for my journey through the Bible.